So, we have established that some parts of our bodies are naturally discolored, and some of them become naturally discolored in order to facilitate movement, right? Right. But there is some body discoloration that can be prevented, and it has to do with how you remove your body hair should you decide to remove that body hair, because you know we're a very much you do you boo kind of channel over here when it comes to removing body hair. But you know, if you are someone who decides to remove it, we are going to talk about the various forms of hair removal, and that's everything from shaving to waxing to sugaring to depilatory creams, epilators to laser hair removal, and electrolysis. We're going to talk about the pros and the cons. Which ones should you choose? And which one should you avoid? Shaving. Now, of course, one of the biggest pros of shaving is that it's quick, it's easy, and it doesn't cost much to do. There's been this long-standing myth that still gets perpetuated today that when you shave, the hair comes back in thicker and faster and boo. Come close. It don't. It only feels like it's growing in faster because you're not removing the hair from the root. So when the hair grows back, it has less of a journey to travel to where you see it on the surface of your skin. And it only feels thicker because you are cutting it at a blunt point. Because trust, if all it took was to grow some hair back in faster, don't you think a lot of us would be shaving our heads more often? So here's some quick tips when it comes to shaving. You want to prep the skin properly before you shave. Wet the skin. You might want to use some sort of solution, shaving cream, something. You just don't want to be shaving dry. You want to avoid a dry shave as much as possible because that mess can be irritating AF. And when you shave, you want to shave in the direction of the hair growth. And each time you shave, you want to get you a new one of these, a new blade every time you shave. Okay? Don't be that person. This is not where you want to save your coins. Okay? You want to manifest. You want to think of an abundance of razor blades, right? That life is always going to bring you a never-ending flow of razor blades, because if you reuse it, it can dull the blade, and when the blade is dull, you gotta drag it a little bit more, and that can cause some issues. Another thing that you want to do after shaving, you want to exfoliate. Now, for some people, you probably don't want to do this directly after shaving because, you know, if your skin's a little sensitive, it can cause some issues, but maybe like a day or so after you have shaved, you want to start exfoliating. So look for things like salicylic acid, glycolic acid. An example of salicylic acid, you know, that Polish choice 2% BHA goes very hard, and it's not just for, you know, taking care of acne and clogged pores on your face. It's also good for preventing ingrown hairs and exfoliating, you know, underneath the arms and the bikini line as well. But there are, of course, other brands that make salicylic acid products. You have the CeraVe salicylic acid wash that you could use for that as well, and I will link some other salicylic acid products in the description box, so make sure you check that out. I'll also put a couple here on the screen. Is it here? Is it here? It's gonna be somewhere on here with the YouTube shopping to make that easy, or of course you can go in the description box. Glycolic acid is also an option. You have the Inky List, who has a glycolic acid product. You have the Ordinary, who has a glycolic acid toner. There are glycolic acid body washes. I'll link that in the description box as well. But guys, especially in these sensitive areas, like, you gotta be careful what you put underneath your arms, because you know your underarms spend a lot of time under occlusion, which means that something that you put underneath there, you know, it can get a little strong underneath there. So do a patch test before you put something on, because you don't want to find out the hard way that you're irritated by something, because now your underarms are red, purple, might be a little steam, a little smoke coming out of them. Do a patch test first. I've also found that a combination of using aloe vera gel, hydrocortisone cream, and petroleum jelly, so you know, you put the aloe vera gel on first, then you put the hydrocortisone, and then you put the petroleum jelly. That can also help with that insane itchiness that can come sometimes after you shave. You know, it could also help to soothe and moisturize the skin as well. Gillette Venus also has a line of pubic hair products that I really like. They have razors that are specifically made for that area, so they have like that, you know, they're specially made so they can kind of get into those little nooks and crannies, you know, down there. They also have a cleanser that you can use right before you shave to kind of prep the skin and prep the hair. There's also an oil that you can use directly after shaving. They also have an exfoliant that you can use in the days after and the days leading up to your shave to help with ingrown hairs. So check it out. I'll leave it linked in the description. They also make this bikini trimming, which I find to be very handy. Now, some cons when it comes to shaving include there are some folks who might be allergic to the materials that are used on some of these razor blades, particularly nickel. So if you have a nickel allergy or suspect that you might want to steer clear of shavers that have nickel in them. Now, as I alluded to before, another con could be that you might be allergic to some of the products that are used in order to facilitate the shaving. So the shaving cream, the exfoliants, you know, yada, 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 which is why we, as smart people on this channel, we always do a patch test before we try something, especially if you're someone with particularly sensitive skin. Even if your skin is not that particularly sensitive, if you are trying something new, what you're not gonna do is slap that sucker on without trying it out on a small patch of skin first to see if you have any kind of allergic reaction to it. Now, another con, especially if you listen to zero of what I just said over the last couple of minutes and you did a dry shave or you didn't prep the skin properly or you used an old razor and then you got that itch that comes in the days after shaving, that mess will have you walking around looking like you are on something. So you might want to give this a little rewind in case you kind of skip through this part. So epilators. Now, this brawn device that I'm using in this video snippet over here, it looks like that mess hurts, but trust me, it doesn't hurt. So what an epilator does, it's similar in a sense of shaving, except that it removes the hair from the root. So now when the hair grows back, it has a longer journey to travel before it gets to where you can see it on the top of your skin. Well, I mean, you might have a little patch of fur right here. You might be teen wolfing out here. So that would be a pro right there. So it takes longer for the hair to grow to the point where you start to see it on your skin, which is not to be confused with it takes longer to grow back. The hair is gonna grow in the same way. It's just that, what's the journey? Is it traveling the path less traveled, okay? Or does it have is it taking a shortcut, you know? Now, some cons for using an epilator is that the price point is not the same as shavers. Like, as a matter of fact, I think you could probably get a razor blade, most of the products from the Gillette Venus Bikini Pubic Hair line, and still wind up spending less than you would on an epilator. However, though, you do wind up having to remove the hair less when you use an epilator, so maybe somewhere in there down the line you might be able to do the math and figure out that one might be more economical for you than the other. So another thing that can be considered a con with the epilators is that you kind of use a different device head for different areas of the body. So, you know, obviously something that you're going to use for your legs is going to be too big for the face, and then something you use for the face is going to be too small for the legs, and then for the pubic area you might want something that has, you know, a special design or whatever. One good thing though is that some of these epilators do come with various heads, so that might be something you want to, you know, check out for. Now, another con, some people, they like, nah, epilators hurt, I ain't never gonna do it ever again in life. Now, I haven't tried every epilator out there. I have tried the brawn epilator, and I found that to be like, I'm the first person to complain about some pain, okay? And I thought that was easy peasy. You can also use it in the shower, so you can use it underwater, so it's a little bit even more comfortable. But that's the brawn epilator. I don't know about other epilators, you know, you read your instructions and all that other stuff, but that brawn epilator, that girl good. Now, depilatory creams, these are also a relatively inexpensive and very quick and easy way to remove hairs. And the way that they work is that they break down the keratin protein in the skin, so that once you rinse the depilatory cream off, that hair rinses off with it as well. Now, with depilatory creams, hair is not removed from the root, so it will have a shorter journey to grow back to where you can see it on the skin, which again is not to be confused with the hair growing back faster. Now, there are a few cons with depilatory creams, one being that some people might be allergic to it, and I would say that's a big con if you're allergic to it, because ouch. So another con is that with depilatory creams, it's not as easy to get a precise shape if that's something that you're looking for, because, you know, you might want a nice little landing strip or a little heart or something like that. I mean, unless you use like a cookie cutter Might be a little hard to get a little precise there. So that's one con that I can think of when it comes to depilatory creams. So waxing, and this works by using wax products to remove the hair from the root, which can be considered a pro because since you're removing the hair from the root, the hair now has a longer journey to travel to where it grows back, where you can see it on the surface of the skin. Now, there are a ton of wax kits that you could theoretically get the job done quickly and efficiently at home. Me, myself, personally, when I did wax, I went to a professional and had my waxing done. You know, definitely make sure that you are doing your due diligence on these waxing salons and the people that are gonna be waxing you, because you don't want to go to no dirty place. Read them reviews, do a drive-by, see what you got to do, because last thing you want is go in some dirty place and you get COVID on your crotch. Ugh. Now, some cons when it comes to waxing. Some people do find it to be pretty painful, although a lot of waxing professionals will let you know that, okay, maybe the first time might not be, you know, you might be a little ouchie ouchie on or maybe like, on the first time, but the more that you go, the less painful that it will be. Some people still, you know, they be like, ouch, 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 even though, you know, they've been doing it for a while. So obviously pain is a person specific kind of thing, so it's going to vary by person. Another con could be that there may be some people out there that might be allergic to some of the products that are used to apply to the skin. Sometimes if the wax is too hot, although I can't remember the last time I went someplace that had hot wax. That had to have been probably in the 2000s. The last couple of places, I forget what it's called. I'll put it up on the screen if I can remember to look it up. But like I would go to European Wax and they would use the, I'm drawing a blank. I'll put it up on the screen. Another con, it can cost more than the hair removal methods that I mentioned before, especially if you're going to get it professionally done. You know, you're doing this over time. It can get a little costly. Now, sugaring. Sugaring is quite often compared to waxing, and it might like if you squint a little bit, it might look a little similar. However, the products that are used are quite different. So, you know, waxing uses wax. Sugaring uses a combination of typically sugar, lemon, and water. The direction in which the wax is applied and then removed are different for each one, so you're going to get different results with each. So a pro here with sugaring is that some people say that sugaring is a lot less painful than waxing, and some people say that because of the direction that sugaring is done in, that it makes an environment that is less conducive to you getting ingrown hairs. You know, I tried sugaring at home in this video right here, and it was interesting. I wouldn't do that again. I would try sugaring with a professional though, but I'm kind of running out of areas to remove hair. I still, you know, grow some hair on my legs, but we'll get into that, you know, later down in the line in the video. So some cons that come with sugaring include, you know, again, if you happen to be part of the population that might be allergic to the solution, you know, obviously that's going to be a con for you. Sugaring is not recommended for short hair, so you might have to wait a little bit longer, you know, in between sessions to be able to remove it. But of course, if you're going to a professional, talk to your professional about when you should make your appointments and, you know, all that stuff. Another con is that you need to avoid it when you're using certain medications, or if you have certain medical conditions, like, you know, certain skin conditions like eczema, psoriasis. Well, shoot, if you have eczema and psoriasis, I would probably skip, you know, any of these hair removal methods until the skin barrier is better intact. Hopefully you know that. Now, with any of these hair removal methods that I just mentioned, there is the potential to get some discoloration in the areas, because as you keep removing the hair, your likelihood of getting ingrown hairs increases. And that's because with ingrown hairs, you know, the area becomes inflamed. That inflammation can trigger hyperpigmentation, and, you know, the more that you're removing the hair and you're going through that cycle, you know, the more likelihood that you have of having some discoloration in the area. Now, because of this, some people opt for more permanent-y solutions, and you'll see why I say permanent-y in a second, like laser hair removal and electrolysis. So let's talk about it. So what exactly is electrolysis? So in the most basic explanation possible, electrolysis uses electric current via heat to remove the hairs individually. So it's like You got 30 hairs, I'm gonna remove them 30 hairs individually. And you know, you can see it in action in this video right here, so in case you were wondering. So you can get electrolysis pretty much anywhere that you grow hair, although because it is such an involved process with removing the hairs individually, most people do opt to get electrolysis just on the face, although you could get it on the body. We'll talk about that in a second. But yes, this can be used for skin of color. However, with any treatment that you do, you want to fully vet the professionals that you intend on going to, because not every, you would think in 2024, we midway through 2024, 2025 is on the horizon, right? You would think in this day and age that people would know what they're doing with everybody's skin, but we know better than that on this channel, right? So you want to fully vet whoever it is that you plan on going to. They need to have receipts that they know what they're doing with skin of color. They don't necessarily have to be of color themselves, but they need to know what they're doing with color. Some pros of electrolysis include, I would say the biggest pro is that it is permanent. Once they get rid of them big hairs, it is gone. Another pro, the cost per session can be relatively low, but that can also wind up being a con, which we'll talk about in a second. Almost anybody can do electrolysis, even if you have gray hairs, even if you have light colored hairs. You know, almost anybody can do electrolysis unless, I don't know, like, I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't be able to do it. Maybe if you have some sort of visible rash at the time, or if you have some sort of skin condition that could get worsened by the electrolysis. But for the most part, almost everybody can get electrolysis. However, some of the cons when it comes to electrolysis, although the per session price can be relatively low, you're gonna need a lot of them sessions, because like I mentioned, electrolysis is removing the hairs individually one by one. Now, obviously it's not going to take as long if something like, you know, the hairs on your chinny chin, but this video is about body hair. Now, I don't have much experience or know anyone who's ever had electrolysis on their body, but I did find a Reddit thread on a forum called hair removal, where somebody said it took them 3 to 5 years for the bikini area. That is a lot. That is a lot of time. But, you know, if you really want to get it done and you're really not a great candidate for laser hair removal, you know, you gotta weigh out your options. Like I said, the per session fee might not be that high, but if you are working on an area, a larger area, like the legs, the bikini, I would say the underarm, I wouldn't consider that a large area, but it's still gonna take some time. That over time, it can wind up costing you a pretty penny, but the trade-off is that the hair removal is permanent. Now, next up, laser hair removal. And you gotta listen real closely to the words that are about to come out my mouth. So laser hair removal offers permanent reduction in the hair growth cycle. So the hair growth cycle slows down little by little with each laser hair removal session that you have. For some people, that might mean eventually that, you know, the hair doesn't come back. For some people, they may need more sessions. For some people, the hair may not grow back, and then like a year or 2, 5 years later, whatever, then you need to, you know, do another session, what have you. However, the most important thing that you need to know about laser hair removal is that you can't just hop, skip, and jump into anybody's office and get laser hair removal. You got to do your research, because number one, not every laser out there is made for skin of color. The laser that's used for skin of color is the Nd:YAG. It's not enough for them to just have this laser for skin of color. They also need to know how to use it and have long receipts to show that they know what they're doing with that laser. You gotta have the two together. The two gots to go together. You cannot have the right laser and the wrong person. It's not gonna go. It's not gonna work. Do not let these raggedy ass dermatologists and medical spas and all of these places use you as a guinea pig, okay? Don't be going to these people who have no business working on skin of color. Don't do it. Do your research. Body hair ain't never been that bad for you to go to one of these inexperienced people and have them jack up your skin. However, when you go to a well-vetted pro who knows what they're doing, you know, they got the right laser and the right person, It can be amazing. So one of the pros of laser hair removal is that each session is relatively quick. So I was going to get laser hair removal underneath my arms, my chest, and the bikini area. All three areas, I was in and out of there in less than 10 to 15 minutes, tops, each session. Another pro about laser hair removal is that you wind up having to remove your hair way less, which means that you're less likely to have your skin in an environment where you would get ingrown hair. Which, if you're more susceptible to ingrown hairs, you'll love, because over time your skin is not having that irritation that's leading to that hyperpigmentation. Your skin actually has a chance to recover, and you can see less and less discoloration over time. Now I'm gonna stick this in the middle because it's not a pro and it's not a con, although I've heard some people say to them it was a con, which I can kind of get, especially if you're allergic to it or you have some issue. But to get laser hair removal, you have to remove the hair by shaving it. You can't wax it. You can't do an epilator. You can't remove the hair from the root, because with laser hair removal, it needs the root because it needs to zap the root in order for it to work. So you gotta shave. Now, some cons about laser hair removal is that it can take 8 to 12 sessions, and I would say that's the minimum, the 8 to 12, because some people, it can take a lot more than 12 sessions depending on which area you're treating and, you know, a number of other factors. But it's gonna take some time. This is not you get one session and then you're done kind of thing. And then each session is spaced out like 6 to 8 weeks in between. So you're looking, if you do the minimum 8 to 12 sessions, you're looking at least a year and some change before you're completed with your package. And if you need more sessions, you take more time as well too. Another thing, again, because this is not permanent hair removal, it's a permanent reduction in the hair growth cycle. Sometimes that hair can start to grow back and you might need maintenance sessions, which those aren't free. That's gonna cost you. Now, the thing though with laser hair removal is that initially it sounds like it costs more than other hair removal methods. Like, I think I paid, there's a whole video on it, so, you know, I'll link to it so you can check it out, because I don't even remember really, but I remember the number 3,000 for some reason for my initial package for the bikini and my underarms. And when I did the math though and calculated how many times I would go for a wax instead, and after a certain amount of years, I think it was 2 or 3 years, I can't remember, but there came a point where it was more expensive to keep waxing than to just do the laser hair removal. So, you know, do your math and all your calculations and all that other stuff. Now, another con is that laser hair removal is not for everybody. So lasers can't detect gray hairs. Certain lasers can't detect lighter colored hairs. So again, you know, you gotta go to the right person. But however, if anybody's telling you that you can get laser hair removal and you have gray hairs, they lying to you, or we somewhere in the future where they finally figured out the technology for the laser to detect gray hairs. And if we get to that point, a lot more people are gonna know than just that one place. So I actually did laser hair removal on my bikini, my underarms, and my chest area, and I talked all about the process, where I went, how much it cost, all the breakdowns and all that other stuff in this video right here. However, I'm also going to link to this video right here, which talks about ingrown hairs and how to prevent them, how to treat them, you know, that sort of thing. So either one of these videos that you choose, click on it and I'll see you there.